Hello and welcome back to another video of Arches and Cubes. This is the first video on this channel that has been inspired by someone. This video has been inspired by two little kids who know how to move the pieces, what are the pieces and how to set up the board. But they do not know how to play like pros. Still beginners, so this video is for beginners. Like those two little kids and many people like them. So today I'm going to be talking about 3 basic things which you want to do in your games. So I'm sorry for any background noise that there is. It's a bit noisy in here. Anyway, so the first thing that you want to do is develop your center pawns, which is the D pawn and the E pawn. So the most common move for developing the very first pawn is d4, and the most common move for developing the second pawn is usually e4. These are the two moves which are used to develop these two pawns. Now, why will you want to develop these two pawns? Because most pawns usually in their first move go to squares. So, after going 2 squares, you will see that they are occupying the 4 central squares e4, e5, d4, d5. The pawn is on e4 and it is also controlling the square of d5. And also, once this pawn is on d4, it is controlling d4, it is on d4 and it is controlling the square of e5. Very well. So, something that you want to do is control the center. So this is the first principle, and I'm going to show you a really ideal position for white in which it is controlling the center and basically has a very nice position. Let's just think the black player has gone mad and is playing very bad moves. Here, this is a good position, and the pawns towards the side of the board, which is a2, b2 and h2, can afterwards be moved forwards or be developed. So, the second principle about which we are going to talk is the need for developing your pieces. As you know, you have 4 minor pieces, or if you count the rook, 6 minor pieces. So what you want to do is first open with the pawn and control the center. Black will usually tend to play e5, also controlling the center with the same file pawn, which is the e5. And then you play knight f3, attacking the pawn and developing your knight. The most common response to this is knight c6, but some players will tend to play knight f6, the Petrovs, one of my favorite openings, or d6, the Fildor defense. Now, what should you do if player plays knight c6? You should go bishop b5. And then, what if the player plays knight f6, the Berlin defense? Then, you calmly push your pawn forward, defending the pawn on e4 and making the way clear for your bishop on c1. Now, after you take the knight on c6 and any pawn captures, then you can easily win the pawn on e5. So this is why developing your minor pieces is important. And today's last principle or important technique which we are going to talk about is going to be how you should castle or bring your king to safety. So castling is a very special rule in chess. Even if you know how to move the pieces, but still you don't know castling, then you don't know half of the game, because castling makes up half of the game. Often, bishops, knights, rooks, and queens invade the space of the king which has been castled. Now, what exactly is castling, you are wondering? Well, let me show you. Let the black players play something like this. Now, as you can see, the path of the e1 king to the h1 rook has been cleared, so they can castle. The king goes 2 squares. I'm sorry for the sound. I'm really sorry. It's just things are bad at my house. Anyway, and then the rook jumps over it. And the condition has to be met. If the king is not been in check, the king's path is not attacked by any piece, and neither the king nor the rook have moved. Suppose if you move the rook on h1 once also and then return it to its previous position, then still you will not be able to castle. But if you have not moved the a1 rook, then you can castle on that side. But if you move your king even once, then you can no longer castle. So that was castling. And what does castling do, you may ask? Well, as you can see, the king is now sheltered in front of 3 huge pawns, which will act as bodyguards but often as traitors, which we will discuss in our next videos, in the future. So anyway, these were the things that I wanted to show you today. And again, I'm very sorry for the noise, but life has some problems and you have to deal with it. But okay, this is Archers and Cubes signing off.